first off, I just want to start by asking you guys a question, and that is, how are you using social media and the internet right now to kind of figure out where you are for your church, your ministry, for what you're doing? Go ahead and just throw it out very practically. What are you doing right now? Yeah.
We're using Facebook and Twitter to actually stream all of our updates to the homepage of our website. That way our web developer doesn't have to do all the updates for the website. So we're actually using those RSS feeds. So all the content on our homepage of our website is streaming live content. And so any pastor can actually update the homepage of our website.
Oh, that's sweet. Convenient, easy. So embedding Twitter, Facebook on your page. How many people in here your church is on Facebook? 100%. Well, we're done. We just shut it down. That's cool. Twitter, and then Twitter too. Your church is on Twitter? Yeah. About the same. Cool. Anybody else? How are you using social media? How about YouTube? How many people here you're actually putting videos out on YouTube for your church? Raise your hand high. I just want to see actually full interaction. So maybe about not quite as many. Cool. And then how about anything else? Social media, the internet. I assume everybody here has a website. Who here all live streams your services at all? Does anybody live stream? Okay, so not as much live streaming. Okay, cool. So we're going to get into social media and try to get into some practical things. We're all using it already, and there's ways that we can, of course, use it and apply it to our unique circumstances and things. I wanted to, before we go further, I wanted to just give you a little bit of my background, maybe even speak a little to why and how I'm standing up here. You know, it's funny when you even start to talk about social media and the internet, there isn't a degree for that right now, at least that I know of. There's, of course, marketing degrees, but the way things are going with social media is things are changing so fast. If you were to go to a college class with a printed textbook, by the time that information hits print, it's already outdated. So there's really all the kind of the social media talks and conversations out there are pretty hybrid. They're pretty current. There's some good books on social media, but by the time it even gets into a book, it's pretty old. And so I myself, my name's Sean. I really just kind of ended up here in social media by accident. My story's kind of unique. In 2009, I was working part-time at a church doing video, and because I was just part-time, decided to start a business called Clear Vision Media. And then in 2010, while still working part-time at a church in Washington, co-founded a nonprofit with Jeff Morse, who's actually sitting in the room, and he's a great guy back there. Hi, Jeff. Everyone say hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Co-founded a nonprofit, and Clear Vision Media was a media business that did social media consulting and videos and web video, worked with YouTube celebrities, Phil Smart Mercedes, some different clients and things. And then Think International, we would do speaking, consulting, and then we would also do a lot of media and interviews with some of the best and brightest leaders. And the interesting thing was that really in just a very short time, both of these became very successful and influential with $0 or investment in traditional marketing. In my business, that in 2009, I never once put out any kind of ads, advertising, but only leveraged social media, branding, marketing, free marketing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not free because it does take your time, but it is free dollar-wise. And then Think International, the same thing. We were just a couple guys in really total obscurity in a town that nobody here probably would know in Washington. Does anybody know Marysville? Actually, everyone here would probably know Marysville, Washington. No? Yeah, maybe Marysville, Washington, especially 1994, Pastor Benny Perez. There was a youth revival in Marysville, Washington. But we just set out. We thought we'd do this thing called Think International, and it's particularly big on YouTube. And we became, in about a year, we became YouTube partners, and we're some of the only. And if you know any great Christian YouTube partners out there, let me know. But there isn't many. There's a few Christian bands. Mars Hill Church is YouTube partners, and there isn't many being massively influential on YouTube, which is a major social media platform. So point being is I kind of just stumbled into this thing by accident. And then in the last 2 months, I moved to Las Vegas. I came down here to work for a YouTube celebrity at the Plaza Hotel. We were shooting some video, and we ended up going out to lunch with Pastor Benny and Pastor Wendy, and kind of the rest is history. But I've really stumbled into this social media thing, and I've seen clearly not the power of it, the effect of it to get your message out, to leverage social media and the internet technology to take your content and get it out, and have seen a lot of success. So within social media, it's of course been blowing up, and just a few kind of statistics to brush through. This is the users, impossible to read, I know, but I'm close enough to maybe sort of decipher. The users since 2005 to 2010 are just going up, and the ages of the people have been going up. And so this side simplified, social media is getting bigger. Second slide. This side is 1 in 4 Americans are actually watching YouTube videos every day. And so they're consuming tons of content. Of course, Facebook, 63.4% of membership sites online. They call Facebook the 3rd largest country in the world. 53% of employers research potential job candidates on social networks. And one thing that we'll get into is that there's the social media and how it applies to you personally and to your church, and how it can be used to get the message out about your ministry, but it also applies to the people in your church in a real major way. I think just the same as we educate people about finances and family and even business and God's desire and His to prosper people and to bring success, this is radically affecting whether people are getting jobs or not. And there's people that need jobs in our churches that are looking to, of course, that are struggling in that particular situation. Leveraging social media is a powerful thing that's practical to every level, whether in ministry, life, or business. And be careful what you post on Facebook. So you want to get those photos deleted, guys, before. Facebook, world's 3rd largest country, and it is growing. And Twitter is growing, but the truth about Twitter is, this is an interesting fact, is that 49% of users either neither or rarely ever check their Twitter. I think they say that only 5% of people on Twitter are responsible for over 90% of the tweets. And so within a lot of the social media stuff, it can sometimes be overhyped, so we'll get into some of the realness of it. Twitter's been, of course, growing. Flickr, 3,500 images are being uploaded per minute. There's over, number's too big for me to even know, billions, I guess, 68 billion images. For any graphic designers in here, I'm sure you've probably never taken something that wasn't yours off Flickr to design something. Awkward pause. Wikipedia is blowing up. Companies using social media, and this would apply to churches as well, because of course they're using it. Facebook is almost 75% of companies. About half are using Twitter, 50%. Many are using blogs. How many in here blog? You blog, your pastor blogs. Okay, a few, maybe 6 or so. YouTube, about 30%. And then it's being used all over the world. So I wanted to talk about practically really 3 levels of using social media for your particular context. And before we get into that, one of the things we talked about even with Twitter is there really is 2 ways as a foundation that we can approach social, and that is, 1, we can really undervalue it. There are those that, just say it's just hype, it's just annoying, Twitter's pointless, people are just tweeting their lunch, I don't care. And while that's true, there's a lot of power in it, and there's power to do some things with it if we value it properly. Same thing with YouTube, same thing with Flickr, all these things. The other side of it is it gets overhyped, and there's some people that are like, man, it's going to change the world. I mean, it's it. If you're not on social, what are you even doing? And it's totally the other side of like, no. I mean, it doesn't replace any of the core stuff. It's just it adds to. It's both and. It's not either or. And so 3 levels are the levels to which we are engaged for our context. And this definitely applies to our churches, to our ministries, but also even to your personal brand. Because we live in the world where each one of us as an individual has a personal brand. If we apply for a job at a restaurant, when they look into our Facebook, they see our branding. They see how we're branded with how we present ourselves, how we dress, or if we're not wearing any clothes in Facebook photos, they would see that too. They see a brand. They see, they see an experience when they go, the way we present ourselves on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter. They get an experience with us. So each and every one of us has a personal brand. People, in our church or volunteers and so on and so forth, they have this chance to interact with us. So these 3 levels really apply to us personally, to our churches, etc. Level 1 in social media is just the level of survival. What we're about to hit is absolutely mandatory and basic, that it applies to every church. And I really think that for some, they don't even need a Twitter. I mean, that it's like you could live without it. For some, I think in some contexts you do. A friend of ours is up from Smoky Point, Washington, Pastor Keith Kippen, and there's a church that meets in his church, uses their building. It's called the Cowboy Church. I would argue that maybe Twitter doesn't need to be one of their primary strategies. I'm not going to fight you on that. But of course, in our context, depending on where you're positioned culturally, and social media is one of the or Las Vegas is one of the most active in social media as even just a city. And so really knowing, how it applies to you, but the survival level really applies to all of us, and we have to make sure that we have at least these things. So here's the question. What happens when someone Googles your name or your church's name or the name of your ministry? What's on the other side? When was the last time? Is there anybody here that hasn't actually checked out your Google personally as a church in 1 week? You'd raise your hand and you'd say, yeah, I have not checked it out in the last week. Keep your hands up. Last week, I have not looked into this. I don't know what's going on. They could have posted those photos of me. Okay, 2 weeks, and then you put your hand down. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Who has not checked what's on the other side of Google in 2011? It is mandatory for survival that we know what is happening on the other side of a Google church. One of our friend churches in Las Vegas here, this is true about a lot of places, you just type them in to Google. I mean, I'm just a casual, searcher. I just look at things and look around and on Google, type some stuff in, and they have Google reviews. Phenomenal church. I don't think the Google review, I don't read into the Google reviews. Doesn't affect my opinion of the church, but there is like 7 reviews, 4 are terrible, and 2 are kind of shallow and not deep. They're like, this is the coolest place, and the rest are like in depth about, this place is on and on about, how this church is a cult and so on and so forth. They're not, but that's what's on the other side of the Google search. Do you know that? And then are you mobilizing something to be intentional? Because for survival, and maybe it doesn't matter today, but it's going to matter as more and more hipsters come into your church with their phones and are just checking out reviews and looking online what's going on about you, right? As more and more people are asking Google questions like, hey, tell me about this. As people are making decisions about what restaurant to eat on Yelp, churches are on Yelp too. So survival, we really have to be intentional to be on the other side of a Google search. The second largest search engine in the world, Google's number 1, is YouTube. So people are asking, they move into Henderson, Nevada, they say, church, Henderson, Nevada. They type it into Google, number 1. The second place they go to when they want to find a search, they'll go to YouTube and they'll say Las Vegas Church or Church Las Vegas. So interesting thing that happened, and this is why it's so imperative, I think, especially as believers, ministers, that we jump into this and really, just this is the survival level to be intentional about a few things. So I came to Vegas 2 months ago, and as director of communications here at the church, and I typed into YouTube, Las Vegas Church. Now, we have our good friend, Pastor Judd Willite, over at Central Christian, 20,000 people at the church. We have our friends at ICLV across town. Their church is multiple thousands. We have our church, the Church at South Las Vegas. None of us were on YouTube on the other side of a search for the second, or for Church Las Vegas. Stunning, right? And what was funny was one of them, the first one was Gypsy Church, and it was like this guy playing an organ. The second one was like this really weird like camera phone shot of this choir. And if you went like 7 down, you saw a really old video blog from Pastor Benny. Anybody on YouTube right now or on the internet? Right now, if you jump on, just go ahead and go to YouTube and just type in Las Vegas Church. And you'll see that now, and the flip side of that is I think we have the entire first page. And really it's not like I have crazy secrets. I do. And I will sell you those for seminars of, anyway, just kidding, no. I do have some, but there's just some basic things. It's really just being intentional about caring about what's on the other side of the Google search. And realizing that for being a local context of, whether you're in Vancouver, Washington, that if someone says Church Vancouver, Washington, that they see even something as simple as from an iPhone 4, your pastor just saying, hey, I just want to tell you about our church, just meets on Sundays, we'd love to have you out, 60 seconds. You don't need anything fancy. You could upload it right from there. And it could be on the other side of that Google search because it's just tagged right, it's labeled right, and there's that experience. But so often we're not on the other side. And furthermore, sometimes there's negative content on the other side. If we want to be found by people who are looking to connect with the local church in an area and we're on the other side of the Google search, what are we doing? Did anybody check that YouTube thing? How are we doing? Good. All right. So number 1, website. For survival, you want to have a website, of course, and you do. And within that, a huge value of a website is really just simplicity. At the end of the day, if you have this cool flash graphic and your pastor rides out on like a dolphin, it's like, ee, and he's like, hey, I want to invite you, and then you fly, and all this kind of cool stuff and sweet music and so on and so forth. But you can't see it on a mobile device because it's flash. And someone's like, man, I don't care about the dolphin, man. I want to know the address. Yeah. I want to be able, have you ever tried to log in and get to someplace on your phone and you can't really get the address from the website to your maps thing because it's not clickable and does anybody know what I'm talking about? You're like, I'm driving, I shouldn't be doing this while I'm driving. I'm trying to get the address, into my navigation and it's just not working. Very basic, on your website, you could just say hey, then this is who we are, this is where we are, and I will see you there. And at bare minimum, they want to know what time is it going on, and maybe a quick button so it'll go straight into navigation, straight into this. Simplicity on the website. One of the huge downsides of Flash websites, and all the designers and people would know in here, is that they're not searchable by Google, so it defeats your Google strategy if you're using a website that doesn't have a lot of text. A lot of people are using WordPress as a website because it's very searchable by Google, so you'll end up on the other side of that Google search. If you have questions throughout this too, remember we're going to just breeze through this in the next probably 10 minutes, and we'll probably try to spend about a half hour on just kind of Q&A and workshopping some stuff, practical things. Second thing, search. Yelp, review sites. The review sites are kind of funny. There's, Google reviews and Yelp and so on and so forth. And it wouldn't be probably that hard to mobilize some of your people with some awesome testimonies to share some feedback on those sites, right? We just haven't done it. And so therefore, it's usually only the squeaky wheel that, ends up putting something on there. So when you Google, if I'm looking for a church and it's kind of first impressions, I'm thinking about whether to check it out, I want to just see some stuff on some review sites. And within that, it's not going to probably help if it's like, I'd almost trust 4.5 stars better than 5. Because if I see 5 stars and I see like, man, he's never fallen off the dolphin when he was riding him. And, just like, this church is perfect. You would never be offended here. And it just, you probably wouldn't even use that word. But you know what I mean? It's like, could not have been better. Am I still? Oh, there we go. Then you want it to be authentic. So if there's something that's like, yeah, it's kind of it's just real. You want authenticity. You want some realness there, so people can get some feedback on those review sites. On social media, assuming you do have a Twitter and you do have a Facebook, or let's say you just have a Facebook, just the survival level is to show life. How many people here have ever gone to a website or a Facebook or someone's Twitter and you're like, your last tweet was on July 2009. What do you think about that person? You think, did they die? Like, are they okay? Where are they at? Are they still, what are they, right? You're like, what's going on? Or you go to a church and you go to their Facebook and you're like, do they do events? I mean, is anything even happening there? Because there's just not life there. So we're not even talking about like getting out there and making an impact. We're just talking about even show life. There's some tools like Twitter Automate, Seismic, and Hootsuite, these social media management platforms where you can schedule tweets. So you could do all your tweets, all your Facebook, all your social media updates in one morning, really quickly. And then you could have them periodically come out all week, just so it looks like you're alive. Hootsuite, Seismic, yeah, and we'll revisit that at the end. So just show life. So very bare minimum, it's like we want to appear like we're in business, even if we're not in business. Now, furthermore, there'll be many times where I will ask questions because I just am curious. I like being curious, and I think one of the key characteristics to helping your own stuff work is be really curious. Always be clicking, trying. Email your own contact email address at your website to see if anyone even gets that. One of the things I did when I got here. Man, is anybody even, able to get through? Like, are they getting the prayer requests? Just kind of try things out. But I'll go to churches and I'll leave a question on their Facebook and it'll go unanswered. And so it would be better to not even have social and to do what we're doing well than to just leave it. So survival, just be able to, we'll get back to you. Hey, no problem. We just want to be on top of it. It's kind of like if you were to go into the Starbucks, and just say, hey, do you guys, have those chocolate-covered croissants, and the barista behind the counter just stared right at you. Do you have the croissants or not? I mean, yes or no. I mean, I'm going to live either way. That's what. Do people see that on our Twitters? If they send us a tweet. All right. So level 1, survival. If you don't do anything else, do that. Make sure that you're at least surviving. It's simple. You can be found. Maybe some of the complex stuff gets stripped down. Level 2, strive. This is where we're going to begin to push into kind of like, going a little bit further, a little bit beyond with social media. How could social media take things to another level? Number 1, this is where you maybe start creating content. And by content, the word's kind of thrown around a lot, but by content we mean pieces of media that add value to people's lives. So a blog post that adds value to someone's life, a video that adds value to someone's life, someone they're interested in, a topic they're interested in, that is going to help them, really clear content that makes sense under the content umbrella is like six practical things you could do in your finances right now to save money. And you go, okay, wow, I need to save money, and 6 things would be nice. Or, controversies of the emergent church. People in ministry were like, that sounds interesting, Francis Chan talks about hell, content, right? You're like, oh man, let's jump into the hell conversation, And so content, videos, even just tweets, they could be content, like very practical things that are adding value. So beginning to create content. If you have events, if you have, speakers come to your church, different people, it's not hard for you to grab a camera and shoot a quick video blog with your pastor talking to another pastor, another leader, and to then just publish that on YouTube and tag it up really well, and then support kind of everything else you're doing, or to add stuff on your blog. Obviously, though, it does take some time to generate content, and we want our content to be good. We don't want it to be fluff. We want it to be valuable, and then we begin to build, and we begin to be influential on social media. And so beginning to create content, and content that's helpful for people, beginning to go into deeper interactions, and by deeper interactions, and we'll hit some of the things we do at the church here. We watch. You can watch on search.twitter.com. We don't watch just our Twitter handle. We watch Church space Las space Vegas. Church Las Vegas. So anyone tweeting with those terms, I'm personally watching what they're saying. And so people that don't say conveniently at the Church LV, which is easy to search, that will just maybe say, what's a good church in Vegas? This question, since I've been here, has happened maybe 6 times. Does anyone know a good church in Vegas? Wow. People are asking questions on Twitter. I'm listening. And so then I'm able to say, hey, yeah, or it maybe promote our church, or even say, well, where are you at? Because if it's possible they're an hour away, maybe we send them to French church, but we help them out. We're there on the other side of those interactions. We'll have people that will say, this is my first time at the Church LV this Sunday. And I'll say, awesome, meet me at the info booth. And then I'll meet them directly, shake their hands. So good to see you. Saw you on Twitter. Interact with them throughout the week. There's ways to go to deeper interactions, and I'll go through a quick list of some of the things we're doing. Deeper, on social media and the internet is kind of connecting everything and realizing that from our Twitter and our Facebook, it's so important, and then our website, and then really anywhere else, that we're always linking back and linking to ourselves and linking around and just connecting everything so that we're getting people kind of educated, and we're helping them get from our website to our Facebook, and from our Facebook to our Twitter to our videos. So, because you have people in these different places, getting them connected, and then really building a brand, and considering some of the best, whether it's business or even in ministry. Some of the most effective have built a consistent brand. You know what to expect from them. You know what you're going to get from them. If your church's Twitter is not consistent, is it about information, or is it about jokes, or is it about just being random, or is it about what's it about? Is it about sharing wisdom quotes? If I want to hear wisdom quotes all the time, I'll follow the wisdom quotes Twitter, so I always get updated with wisdom quotes. What do I want from it? So building a consistent brand, what you're going to get, and beginning to kind of develop that. We'll go into that more in a bit. And then the third level is thrive. And thrive in social media is kind of like the extraordinary. It's kind of being able to, just blow up into a whole nother world. I don't know if anyone remembers the Old Spice guy that's on a horse. Anyone? That is a thriving level in social media. Old Spice is the number one deodorant today. It's the number one brand. They just obliterated everybody. They grew by 105% in sales on that. And it was very creative. And within that, it wasn't just because of any one platform. It wasn't because of Facebook, but that was part of it. It wasn't because of Twitter or YouTube, but it was all the above. And it was because he's really hilarious. And it was because they had good content, and it was creative. So it was a mashup of a bunch of things that led to thriving. There was an Egyptian revolution that has been going on and went on. Is everyone familiar with the revolt and revolution in Egypt? They're saying, and they say, it was fueled by social media, accelerated by social media, and the connectivity of the entire revolution was social media. So this is what's crazy, though, is that as believers, we're trying to start a revolution. And then the connectivity and the power of social media was seen there in the unity and the dissemination of information. And there was literally the overthrow of a regime because of social media in Egypt. Thriving with it. There's actually a church, and I love practical examples of people that are actually doing it and kind of seeing results. And how many of you think that if you could get your church's kind of YouTube views up to 20 million, you'd be doing something right? 20 million. So there's a church, 20 million YouTube video views so far. During their 2011 General Conference, they sent out 55,000 tweets during their conference, this church. And their Facebook, they have multiple Facebook pages, kind of like of the different, dimensions or whatever, but like 464,000 fans, 150,000 plus fans. They're just killing it, absolutely dominating in social media. They're really thriving. And this church is the Mormon church. And I don't know if any of you have been on YouTube and if you've ever actually seen a featured ad up top that's like, hi, I'm Jan and I'm a photographer and I love my life and I'm da-da-da. And then it ends and it says, and I'm a Mormon. Has anyone seen those ads? The Mormon church has launched a massive campaign in social media reaching out multiple thousands, millions of views and feedback and connection from leveraging social media. So let's thrive in what we're doing. So really quick, and then we'll go Q&A. Stuff we're doing. One thing that we recently just did, a lot of churches are doing it, so maybe it's for you to consider, to propose, to whether it's part-time, full-time, whether it becomes a position, whether it's somebody that's already in a position, is realizing that that businesses and churches are establishing what's known as a brand voice or the chief communication officer. In my case, my job description is the director of communications, and I'm basically that. And that is someone who literally speaks for your brand, who knows your voice, knows your DNA, has tact, has discernment, can represent you properly, and is the voice of interaction, of speaking over these platforms, realizing that the need is there and having someone manage it. It needs to be personal, it needs to be human, there needs to be someone on the other end. If someone says, where's there a great church, and you get a robot answer on Twitter that was like, here's the address, then they go, okay, so a computer saw my question. But if they get, there's a cool church, smiley face, woot, exclamation mark. They're like, oh, there's like a person just replied to me. So really someone that is operating as the brand voice, as the chief communication officer, and even thinking about developing that person. Like maybe you have that person in your ministry, maybe it's you, and thinking, getting them some resources, which will hit some books, some things, some websites, to kind of just get them thinking about, all right, having them manage that thing for what you're doing. Watch search.twitter.com. Search.twitter.com, you can follow so many different things, what people are talking about. I mean, it's a constant, current, live, up-to-date search of what people are saying on Twitter. And just like what are people saying about you on Google? What's on the other side of that Google search? It's like, what are people saying about you? If positive or negative. It'd kind of be like if you all came into this room and you just were like, wow, Sean, you're just so great. And, my pastor rides dolphins well, but you ride them really well. And I've exhausted that one. I'm sorry. Thank you for the courtesy just in the front here. And you just went off. So like 10 people just encouraged me. And they're just like, man, you're just so awesome. And I was just like, that's right. Or I said, what do you say when someone says something nice about you? Thank you. Thank you. So as people are talking about you, say thank you. Now, just perchance, has anyone got a reply back from the church at South Las Vegas on Twitter in this room? Ever? A couple? You have too? Huh? No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Yes. So besides, so there's about 10 people in the room. The church itself, not just me, not my Twitter, the church's Twitter talks back to people as a human, right? And even too, some people might say, such a great service. It's like, thanks for coming out. Man, it's so great to have you. It's a point of contact, and it's if somebody says a compliment about you and you're silent about it, search.twitter.com and of course @replies, we can be listening to what people are saying. And if they're saying good or bad, or if they're even saying it negative, we could address it right in the middle of it. Because sometimes we're afraid of people sharing negative stuff. If you just address it and it's either true or it's not true and you correct it or whatever, you just get in there and you just start replying right to that. And that's always a good question of like, well, what about negative? And respond, retweet, encourage our people, we respond, we encourage our people. You know, you can, if people are going throughout their week and they're going to a job interview that week, or if a high school student's, you know, got leading prayer at the poll for the first time, you know, practical things, you can send them tweets throughout the week. That would blow their mind if your church, the brand of, you know, at your church, talks back to them, encourages them during the week. Or if someone, you know, just occasionally, a few times throughout the day, you're just listening to what people are saying. In the middle of the week, not just Sunday, you know, they say something and you just reply back to them. We had a first-time guest last weekend, and they said they were a first-time guest on Twitter with this thing that Pastor Benny did. And then this next weekend, we talked back to them and said, hey, are we going to see you in church again this weekend? On Twitter. Obviously, they were active on Twitter because they engaged with us the first time. So some stuff just to kind of practically jump into that. You know, follow up with people, like and respond. Facebook, you know, like sometimes I don't know what to say to someone on Facebook. Just click like. Doesn't it encourage you when you post something on Facebook and someone clicks like as opposed to the silent post? Yeah. Has anyone ever said a joke on Facebook and you're like, this one's going to be really good? You know? And then it's just, no, you're like, really? Not one person could have clicked like on this, right? Like is a powerful thing. So if somebody leaves something on our face, there is not a post that goes by on our church's Facebook that doesn't at least get liked. Thank you, like. How long does that take? Check in once a day. Check in once a week. Go back and like them all and say, hey, good. You know, just really quick, like just practically like, respond, follow up, show that you're kind of alive. And this is something that we particularly did. Pastor Benny's idea, genius, and he came up with it on the spot. He's just preaching one Sunday, and he goes, you know what? Right now, if you follow the church and you tweet and you send us a tweet, we will have your Starbucks order by the end of service. And I was sitting there on the online campus, and I was like, who's going to go pick those up? You know, and I was like, it's easy for you to say. So he sends it out, and then I think even the first weekend he opened it up to regulars. So we had 40 Starbucks drinks at this Starbucks. God bless their hearts, and they love us or hate us. I'm not sure yet, but so we do this first-time guest Starbucks orders, and so it kind of develops. You know, kind of is even getting some people onto Twitter. It's kind of getting them in the flow. What's like the, you know, why would we want them to be on Twitter? Like, what good would that be? Well, for them, beginning to integrate them over to social media because it very much affects their personal life. And then furthermore, to begin building the brand here more. So we did that. Always educating with bits of info. Hey, you know, a little here, a little there. Nobody ever wants, you know, all 7,000 of your ministries with all 7,000, you know, video links with like every, you know, the 5 points of tulip of Calvin, you know. You know, just like, but like little bits. Like, hey, did you know our pastor has a blog? Like, hey, did you know you can watch this video over here? Hey, did you know, like little bits. Hey, you know, did you know we have little bits of information? And you never know when, you know, people are going to get that a little here, a little there. We always want to write the thesis and give them like every single thing, you know, all at once. We interact with the community in secular. You know, if Conan O'Brien says a funny joke, our church will say LOL. I don't know if your DNA permits that, but, you know, so on and so forth. In our case, like we're kind of out there talking and interacting with the community, with the secular. We'll interact with, you know, people that are saying stuff in Vegas. Our church does. I mean, does that seem kind of weird, right? Like they see at the church LV is interacting with them. The brand of the church is interacting with like real people, influencers in the city. And so you do that. And then we do video blogs. And here's the ultimate thing with video blogs that's a huge deal. Because it's not just like, is it going to get views? Is it going to have good content? If we put out 10 video blogs in the next month, even easy ones, and we tag them right, we title them right, we just added 10 pieces of content to the internet that are promoting our website because we always link to our website in them. So when Google sees these video blogs and sees the links, it says, wow, 10 videos were made about the Church LV by the Church LV, but that's not what they think. It's just 10 videos were made about them. 10 more things with our tag words, with our name. And so it's pushing us up on Google. It's pushing us up on YouTube. So the only reason we're doing as well as we are on YouTube is simply because we've been intentional to put some stuff out there. So we're on the other end of questions. What if you do a Q&A on sex and relationships? And you begin to tag that up in your local area. So when people are considering, which a lot of people are searching sex and relationships, in case you didn't know. And when they're searching that, your content's on the other end with God's word, truth about that. Video blogs tagged up with different things in them. And then we're simplifying all the time. All right, so really quick, a couple things, and then we'll just go Q&A for the last little bit here, probably about 17 minutes or probably about 10 minutes, so we'll take a break. Think International, like I was telling you, that nonprofit that Jeff and I started, there's a couple videos on there. They're on there right now, and you can watch them out. You can share them with whoever. It's to get in, it's just $499 to actually access these, but it's worth it. It's worth every penny. So I'm just kidding. They're free. And so there's two: the Social Media Gospel and Social Media for Life Ministry and Business. Social Media Gospel is really gives biblical basis for the fact that God used the Roman roads and he used the synagogues. It says in Galatians, he sent Jesus at the opportune time, when the time was right, in the fullness of time. For that's when the gospel went forth. Right when technology, Roman roads, synagogues, so the transference of the gospel could spread in a really major way right at that time. You follow to the printing press and the explosion of the gospel then. You follow to even television and the really explosion around the world. Social media has really changed the world, and it is the cultural evolution at times right now that I really believe is already starting a revival, just like the printing press. So, and then Social Media for Life Ministry and Business is a great thing to share for the practicalities of how it can apply to those. And then there's some recommended books and resources on those sites as well. Does anybody have any questions just for at the end here about how this can maybe apply? We could workshop your situation. Ideas, thoughts? Yeah.
What's the best way to tag YouTube content, and what are maybe some mistakes if you don't want to make tagging your content?
Okay, yeah, good. So YouTube, now again, what's cool is the first video you see on YouTube about us is when you say Church Las Vegas, is just an invite video. That just tells about the church, shows a few shots, has a really nice voiceover, and just says, hey, we want to invite you to the church at South Las Vegas, and it tells about the church. It's short, it's kind of cool. And within that, a couple things you want to hit within tagging. You want to hit your local region, because you're not going to win on YouTube if you try to just win church, right? Like you're not going to be on their side. Like if someone goes to Google and they type in church and they find you. I mean, that's a good goal in life, but let me tell you right now, you're probably not, but you might be able to your city name in church for now, or even your being on the other side of a particular topic, and so thinking location, thinking topically, thinking names, thinking regions. So for Vegas, we would tag, of course, we'd use Pastor Benny Perez, Wendy Perez, but we'd use Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada. And when you're tagging YouTube, you always use commas to separate the separate thoughts. And then in your description box on YouTube, you have the title, the description, and the tags. Your description box, you can put almost as much as you really, I've never seen the limit of how much you can fit in there. So you can actually take your notes from the pastor's sermon and just throw it in the description box, and that becomes searchable. So a phrase that he maybe said in a sermon is now searchable on whatever topic it is. So, and then your title, the first few words of the title and the first few words of the description and the first few tags are your most important. So whichever ones you want to have, you can figure that out. If you go to YouTube right now, it's an interesting fact, is if you go to YouTube right now and you type in church media, Think International, Think Media TV is the very first video in the world, right? And so, but thank you. And we think that's pretty cool. But honestly, that's just, it's really just because of just being intentional and just kind of being smart. See, I just gave you all this stuff, and now if you do it, you'll probably be the first in church media in the next few months. Because it's just not a lot of people are out there taking this space. Or what we'll do, man, it's the biggest travesty, is we'll have a cool conference video or a cool invite video, and it'll be titled, conference.h.264, MOV, with no tags and no whatever, and it'll have 16 views. Why does it have 16 views? Because no one can find it. No one knows it's there. You have to think about your end user, and that's what I'd ultimately do. You want to reverse engineer your content for your end user. Get in their shoes. What are they typing in to Google? What are they typing into YouTube? How to grow your church. You know, you're reaching out in ministry, you have teaching or whatever. How to fix your marriage. You know, a lot of how to fix your marriage. You know, whatever it is on kind of topically. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now, Pastor Jabin did an awesome series called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And so that becomes fun for tagging, right? Because now we're getting to use sex, drugs, rock and roll, sermon title. We're tagging the videos up that way and the content up that way so that when people are searching those terms, which they are, they're finding it on the other side. Or then, of course, there's the cultural. What you don't want to do is you don't want to lie and say, you know, Justin Bieber came to our church, unless he did. Would it be stretching it too much to get a cardboard stand-up of Justin Bieber and then say that? I don't think so. Maybe we should try that and so on and so forth, and people might think it's funny. And so there may be, but you don't necessarily want to stretch it. However, connecting your thoughts, connecting your things to current trends is smart in social media. So if you can have a sermon that ties in with a buzz phrase, buzz topic, then that is going to get kind of more traction, more play. Questions? Coffee. Well, if we're good to go, then any last questions? Last 1, 2, 3. Then thanks so much, guys, for coming out. If you have any thoughts or anything, let me know. And I think next breakout starts in 10 minutes.